Thank you for joining me. Before I begin, I would like to wish everyone a happy and prosperous 2025. I want to introduce my latest book, An Odyssey in Iceland, an Englishwoman's true story of life and dreams. And of course, that Englishwoman is me. I would like to begin by reading a couple of extracts telling of the realization that I didn't simply want to visit Iceland, I wanted to live there. One evening, I arrived at the conclusion that I wanted to spend time living in Reykjavik. It wasn't a casual want. I really longed to do it. This dawned very naturally and gently. There was no sense of a thunderbolt that came out of the blue. I was surprised, though, that I had come up with such a longing. After all, not only had I never thought of living anywhere overseas, I had never really been able to understand why anyone would want to. But now I felt that if I didn't give myself an extended time in Iceland, I would always regret it. How long was an extended time? I was thinking of years rather than months, and to my utter surprise, I even pondered whether Iceland might become my forever home. Probably an initial seed that had been sown when I was entranced by a holiday program about Iceland as a 12-year-old girl had been activated as it all felt so natural. On a logical level, I wanted to experience what I felt Iceland could offer. And although I was surprised to find myself thinking it, I really was up for living in a different country that felt so vibrant. The scenery and nature were great attractors, but there was something greater, something deep within me that needed to meet with something in the Icelandic experience. I wondered if my soul had seeded something in relation to Scandinavia or Nordic culture, maybe in a previous lifetime or in the life between lives when I was waiting to be born. Could a push or pull on this level have flowed from an energetic patterning held within the land or the culture that matched with something in the subtle level of me? I had no definite impressions of such things, but my beliefs led me to feel that something like this might have been part of the overall picture. I loved everything on this second trip, both within the nature, the culture, and the city of Reykjavik, which I saw as an arty, eclectic, and totally unique place. And then there was the coast, for more years than I cared to remember. I had been besotted with taking wide, wind-swept walks by the ocean. It was incredibly attractive that all of these possibilities existed in the same place. For sure, Iceland had waved a magic wand, and its dramatic and refreshing beauty spoke to every layer of me. Now, there are many, many levels to this story. The story of how I came on the first visit, which was a plan that was thwarted on quite a few occasions before I was actually able to come. And then it was delayed by the eruption of Eyjafjallajökull something that at first seemed exciting. But then when I knew that it could halt flights, it became a major concern. But I was able to come, albeit one day late, and I really feel that there were many serendipities in my life that pointed me towards the north and helped to build my enthusiasm for it before I became enthusiastic about Iceland, having refined my direction a little bit. I still cannot explain why it so captured my imagination, or why life would keep providing seemingly unlikely links that touched upon Iceland and ensured that my enthusiasm was kept alive. And when I talk about true story of life and dreams, there is the dreaming that we have when we want to do something. But there are also the dreams of the night. And I had learnt to take notice of my dreams from some decades before I came to Iceland. But the earliest dream that I can say definitely pointed me to Iceland was an extraordinary dream that came about in 1992, a full 20 years before I moved here. But then there was another dream just after I'd moved very happily to the city of Bath in 2009 that clearly spoke of a much longer distance move that involved an impossible, seemingly impossible volume of items to be transported. But it became something that made perfect sense when my son decided that it was right for us both to go to Iceland, he for his own reasons and me for mine. His intention was to come, just to do a course here and then to return. But his stay has been much longer and much more fulfilling than he could ever thought that it might be. And it really has been an adventure for me, a journey of ups and downs, twists and turns, of exploring spiritual meanings, exploring culture, and deciding what that meant to me. Something that is, of course, an ongoing process, and probably always will be. And then there came the time when inexplicably, very happy though I was at that point, happy with everything in my life, I realized that it wasn't quite then, but there would come a time when I would want a different adventure, a different experience, a new chapter. And that has been an adventure in itself, in uncovering it and bringing it to reality. And as I look at life and the dreams and the pointers that came along the way, I am absolutely amazed. Some would call it destiny at work. Others would call it points of serendipity, or perhaps points of luck. But it has been such an exciting and special journey that I feel really deserves sharing, which is why I wrote an Odyssey in Iceland, initially intending it to be just for friends and contacts, but then deciding to publish it, and I have published it on Amazon under the author name Kay, that's Kay, just initial T full stop, and then my surname Cook, so it's K.T. Cook. And I have published 2 other books under that name, Runes and Rainbows, which is about my work with the runes and how when the client that I am working with is interested in doing so, I will link that to work with their intuitive work with their own chakras and the energies in the aura and the energies that are developing for other layers of information. The other book that I wrote in 2019 is a novel with a spiritual and ecological theme that is set partially in Iceland. That is called Feathers of Destiny, Dancing with the Tide. And all 3 books can be found on Amazon. But thank you for joining me.